think we are live. It's Dr. Boz on Tuesday nights with one of my favorite people. Thank you for joining me. I am here live on not Sunday night, Tuesday nights. We've switched from Sunday nights to Tuesday night. And I have spent an incredibly large amount of time today trying to troubleshoot a few things on the channel. And I am just praying to God everybody can hear me and that it doesn't have a bunch of static in the background. And then in a moment, you're going to hear from one of my favorite people. And let's just pray that that all works out too. I'm going to check some numbers while I look who's on. Nice to see everybody. Thanks for those of you that said I can see you. And hey, thanks for the hair compliments. This Tampa weather definitely is not liking any kind of straight hair. It frizzes out as soon as I get out of the shower. I check numbers because numbers count. We are going to talk tonight about some other kinds of numbers and metrics that have to do with kidney stones and other kinds of stones, moans, and ketones. And most importantly, I hope I can get a little more blood out of there. Oh, shoot. I'm going to have to prick that one again. So my blood sugar is 98. I'll guarantee you that's from the stress over the last 10 minutes. And I am going to check these ketones really quick. So again, putting that ketone into the meter, and you just got to wait for that little drip to start blinking at me and get me a number calibrated to the number that's, and there we go. It's going to count down 10 seconds to measure ketones, the glucose of 98. We have some folks from Knoxville checking in. That is, again, ketones 1.4, glucose 98, and I have a few helpers in the background today that I just really need to say thank you for helping me through some of those sound issues today. I am eternally grateful that everybody can hear me right now, and it is not a tiny amount of time that I've spent getting all these things hooked up. Before you know it, though, we are going to have some awesome, you need to turn the volume up. That doesn't surprise me, actually. Let's see, I can turn volume up on this one, and I can turn the volume up on this one. So let's see how that sounds to everybody. And if it's tapping out too loud, you let me know that too. So yes, tonight I have a few things that I usually do, and that is I check my numbers at the beginning. I talk about a few things that have gone on in my week, and I am super excited for sharing one of my favorite people with you tonight. So we are going to jump over a couple of little hiccups. Tonight I am that Dr Boz ratio. Somebody, Mark, just calculated that for me. Thank you very much. Yes, that's a Dr Boz ratio of 70. And I have ketones in tonight. Usually I am at about 48 hours fasting by now, but I came home last night, and there's some moments in a marriage where you just don't argue. And as often as I've fasted on Mondays, this week my teenage son, who is here in Tampa, he's the one who's a sophomore, and they have their first wrestling tournament this weekend. So he has to make 125 pounds, and he was 131 over the weekend. So as a family, we said, okay, we'll help you eat one meal a day, and we'll help you get to the part, create an environment. And that's going to be successful for you weighing in at the 125 like you and your coach want. And he did great. He was down to 126 on Monday, which meant he could have a meal. And so my husband brought home a meal from last night, and it was just one of those moments where I'm just going to eat with him. So I am not fasted. I'm about 24 hours in. I am going to fast through tomorrow. But during my fast, I'm drinking ketones. I have people every week ask me, does that mean you break your fast? And when I look at the guidance that I give patients and I give people, salt water, black coffee is the best. But if you're going to have any help along the way, I do drink exogenous ketones when I'm struggling. I don't know if I'm struggling tonight as much as I am thirsty, and I like to show you that when you drink products that actually have this stuff in it, it does change numbers. I'm not saying that anything disparaging about other products, but you should check. You should check your numbers. All right, so I also have an announcement later on tonight that I'm really excited to share with you. So Patrick doesn't even know that. So we are looking at several of the next few weeks that I am trying to reach out to several of the people that I have not only been inspired by, but they've come into my sphere of influence, and they've made a big difference in my life, and I wanted to share those friendships with you. Last week we had a great guest on. If you didn't check out that video, go back and watch the replay about when you have struggles in a community of just hurts and hangups, and carb addiction is what we're talking about here, trying to improve your health with ketogenic living. And today we're going to talk about a medical problem that I've seen over and over and over again, but I often find that what my words say to patients isn't nearly as powerful as when you hear it from a patient. And so without any further delay, I am going to skip over the reviews of the book. I will put a call out for that I do appreciate everyone in the community of this Dr. Boz environment that has written a review on the book. The books are self-published, and the marketing that matters the most is reviews. So I know in big publishing companies, they have all kinds of strategies to get people to write reviews, but you're it. You're what I have, and I do appreciate it. I do read them, and honestly, as I try to prepare my world for reopening a clinic here in Tampa, the connection to hearing your stories is really inspiring to me. It makes my day, and I love sharing how much you can really improve your health, not just with the prescriptions that we write, but more importantly with the choices you have. And we talk about that in the book. So sharing those successes are what I would love for anybody who has not written a review of the book. Please, please, please leave a review of the book on Amazon. All right, so that's enough of my selfish needs. I am super excited to share one of my favorite people with you, and that is Patrick. We call him Patrick V inside the Neurons page, and I'll give a little bit of an introduction, but I can't wait to pass the mic over to Patrick. Patrick is definitely one of those people that when he wrote into the channel, you could hear how much his life had really been compromised by his health. And he wrote me several months into his journey, where several physicians had said, given him this nudge to go towards a ketogenic life, a ketogenic journey. I'm going to let him tell his story about what the problems were and how that journey unfolded. But I remember the emotion that took my heart when I read his letter saying, here's someone I had never met, who had read a book that I didn't expect the world to read as much as they did. 100,000 copies later, and he was one of those people that read the book and said, oh, I get what she's trying to get people to do. And then he made changes, and 6 months plus into those changes, it might have been longer than that, and his life was dramatically improved. And Patrick came under that influence, and he has been in my inner circle of teaching, helping, and sharing how a ketogenic diet changes the health of people. And I think I win. I'm the one blessed to know Patrick and to be able to call him my friend and part of our team. So welcome to the channel, Patrick.
Hi, Dr. Boz. Hi, everybody, all my fellow neurons. I guess I'll start with, my life starting out as a young man and eating the right things. And during the turn of the century, I stopped all the sugary stuff and went to the healthy foods, the whole grains, all that stuff. And pretty much over 20 years of doing that, it ended me up with type 2 diabetes, coronary calcium. You okay?
Yeah, squirted all over.
Coronary calcium, artery disease, arterial sclerosis. And so I wrote to Dr. Bosworth and told her what I was doing. About 3 months into my journey, I had actually made a spreadsheet and shared that with her. And we started talking online, and she said something once that she was going to take me on as a new patient. And she said, she asked me, what did I want to get out of this? I don't know if you remember this, but
I do.
what I said was, I just want to help people. That's all I want. That's all I want to do. So that's led to all this, and it's a dream come true. And I want to thank Dr. Bosworth right now personally in front of all the Neurons for all she's done for me and us as a group. Thank you.
Wow. That is, it is like when you look at some of the attractions that we have to other people in life, I think, I share often that I'm a woman of faith and science. People think that's not possible, but it is possible. And I know that when I am connected to people, that God just needs to remind me of other people that are really living to improve the lives of others. It is amazing how much it energizes me, how much when you're around people that live a life of service to others, that it seems it seems like wonky magic how much that can change like the spirit of your day. It can change the how much you forgive the mistakes that you've made, and the number of times that you kind of fall down and try again when you're surrounded by other people that are in that kind of groove of serving others. And I think Patrick's story has been incredible. Now, unfortunately, one of the things I was going to do is share some before and after photos, but we took care of sound issues right up to the second before the show started. But in the Neurons group, there have been several pictures posted of Patrick, as well as on his own Facebook page. But what I want to share, because I have a ton of people that write in for this, and it's part of why I want to highlight your case, is that when I tell patients that they can have an improvement in things like kidney stones, which are, again, one of the world's worst, most painful situations between gout and kidney stones. Both of them are, I call the stones in medicine. You can't, it's almost like one of those stories that if you've never experienced one, you don't get to enter into that realm of discussing it, because it's so, it stretches your mind to a level of pain and suffering and just inappropriate, like your day is going fine and then it's not, and it's due to this inside problem that's really been brewing for a long time. And one of those big naysayers to the ketogenic diet has been, oh, it's going to cause it causes kidney stones, or it makes kidney stones. And so I thought it'd be great for you to tell your story about, the kidney stone that lands you in an ICU, and then how that has unfolded over the last 2 years.
So what happened was I became very ill. My abdomen was really sore. I thought I was constipated. I was taking laxatives. I fasted for like 5 days, not on purpose. I just couldn't eat. Till finally one day I came into the office and one of my coworkers said, "Dude, you need to go to the hospital now." So
typical of a boy, like
I didn't want to go. So I went to the hospital, emergency room. Within 2 hours, I had a urologist in my office, or in my room, saying, "My name's Dr. Ratio, and you're going into surgery. You have a kidney stone. I think it was like 4 or 5 millimeter that had exited my kidney and blocked my left uterus, which then caused my creatinine level to go up to 7."
Yeah, that's incredibly dangerous. You're killing kidney cells every second. Yep.
Yeah. So he took me into surgery. I ended up staying in the hospital for 5 days under antibiotics that I've never had before. This stuff was painful. The antibiotics hurt. They were injecting it. Actually hurt. But I was really sick. So the urologist, the first thing they said, quit taking this, quit taking that. They took me off of like 4 or 5 of the 13 medications I was on already, and said, don't ever take those again. And these are the urologists, Dr. Dan. So they didn't take the stone out then. They put a stent in to drain the poison and the fluids out and get my creatinine level back down to at least like 1.5 before they would let me leave the hospital. So I left the hospital. I went back to have the stone removed and talked to Dr. Raschuti about what he was doing, how he did it. I went to Khan Academy and learned about kidneys and I watched the procedure and the operation, talked to him about it, and it worked out real well. I had the stone removed under anesthesia, so thankfully, and they set me up to come back in 2 weeks. So I went back and talked to Dr. Raschuti in 2 weeks, and well, I had never had a kidney stone in my life. I hadn't even never had the experience. So I went in and talked to him about what I was doing to improve my diet for kidney stones. So I was eating egg whites and cabbage and this. He goes, "Stop it! Don't do that. You need to do keto." So he gave me some doctors to look up, and I read I read through some books in 3 days. On the third, fourth day, I threw away all the grains, all the vegetable oils, all the fruit, all the sugar, starch, everything, and went full on keto. And then, I don't know, 6 days later, my blood sugar was 85 and I cried.
So, yeah, that powerful intervention of, okay, so if you go back to a medical school and those first few years of lots of testing that happens in a physician's world, they give you this list of saying, okay, here's what kidney stones are made of. The stones can be of oxalate, and it goes through several of the
Yeah, mine were oxalate.
You were oxalate?
Yeah.
And so then they'll put you on a low oxalate diet. And that was always the first place where I'm like, okay, so they're eating less oxalate, but that stuff circulates out of their bones. I mean, the resources inside your body to circulate oxalate are endless. I mean, you're gonna be in a wheelchair because you can't stand up. You'll dissolve your bones so much to get if you're trying to lower oxalate in the body. It is a similar process where people say, yeah, I have calcium in my arteries, I shouldn't take calcium. And I'm like, that is flawed thinking. No, you need the chemistry set that keeps the calcium and the oxalate in the bones and not in the urine.
Right. I'm trying to move my calcium deposits in my arteries to my bones now by vitamin D and K2.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
See how that works.
And in the setting of, first of all, get the inflammation out of their system. You know, when I look at people who write in, and especially your story is very inspiring because it wasn't just, well, first of all, like many people that watch this channel, the engineers really like the facts laid out very specifically and measurable outcomes. And I suppose that is what attracts me to the way I set up the process of helping people with a ketogenic diet is, all right, people, there's some wonky ways to do keto, and then there's some calculated ways to say, shift the chemistry in your body so that the equation for undoing inflammation stays forward moving. That requires that you have ketones produced in your system, enough that you're at least making a urine ketone strip turn positive. And even if it's only a little bit, continuing to pull your system that direction is what the requirement is to undo a calcium stone in someone's kidney. Because like you, when they say, I've never had a stone, you saw me make the face going, I've heard that before. It is that they didn't know they had a stone. It was this tiny little crystal that begins in their kidney, and because the chemistry's right, because that inflammation is constantly in the building zone of those stones, instead of the reducing side, eventually it gets very heavy in where it's lodged, and that's when the stone breaks off from where it was formed, and boy, it rolls down that ureter and plugs things up in a heck of a hurry.
Yeah, so I had someone ask me last year, or made a statement saying, hey, keto, you're going to get kidney stones and this and that. I said, look, I have a kidney surgeon tell me to do this. So you go argue with him. So that stopped that conversation.
Yeah, and that process is, again, just in the last 2 weeks, I've had probably, I'm not seeing patients yet. I'm still, if you could see what's behind me, you'd say it's just chaos yet in here. of unpacking and trying to find the next season for my journey. But as I've run into several people and had conversations, it's been like kidney stone season where boy, I can't do that. It's going to make my kidney stones worse. I was told by the doctor that I need to eat no nuts, and I've been eating no nuts for 2 years, and I've still had 3 kidney stones. I'm like, you see that it's not working.
That's nuts.
I know. So after you had that first little, like 85 was your blood sugar, let's do it. There's several threads that I want to cover here, but let's cover the thread of what happened to the kidney stones since that initiation of, being in an ICU, having 21st century medicine just get you out of the danger zone, and then having this very wise physician say, switch your chemistry, get it onto that ketogenic diet and stay there. And then within, again, 2 weeks, it being a very nice result. So what happened with the stones over the last 2 years? Oh, that's not good.
While, and just this last summer, still there?
Yeah, I'm still there. Sorry, it was keep
Okay.
going.
Okay, so I had went on a motorcycle trip out to the Rocky Mountains from Ohio out to southern Colorado, and on day 3, I passed a kidney stone, little tiny baby one, and it just felt weird. I mean, what the hell was that? So it was an oxalate stone. Yeah, I fished it out and put it on a microscope, and then a couple days later, I had a second one. So I was keeping an eye out for them, and I haven't had any since. Now, maybe we all make some sort of oxalates, and they don't grow, and I'm able to dislodge them and pass them. Hopefully, I'll never have them again, but I did have 2 since then. And it was all in a couple days, and it was all 2 months ago.
So I want you to lean a little closer to your microphone. They are complaining about our sound not being enough, and so I'm trying to do that too as they comment on it. So let me just review that. So you show up in crisis, which means there's a huge amount of oxalate coming out in the urine. You're blocking off a ureter. You have a stent placed, and then you went how long before the next time you had a symptom from a stone?
There was no symptoms. I just passed one, and that was 2 months ago. So almost 3 years, 2.5 years, a little more.
And has there been anybody who's scanned your kidneys in the last 6 months?
No.
Nope, because you don't have any symptoms. That's the part I was trying to swing back around, which
okay, yeah, no symptoms.
Yeah, so as you look at the process of once someone has enough oxalate built up in their kidney to spark kidney stones, to spark the symptoms. I mean, they hurt, and especially one that blocks off the ureter. Guaranteed, you look at the timeline for the next 2 years, we are more stents, we are more kidney stones. Usually both sides are making them, even if they see them on one side, or like take a microscope in there, look at autopsy, look at post-mortem when we see kidney stones in one, they're in the other kidney. They're just, once that collection starts, the crystal begets more crystallization, so it kind of attracts that element in the urine. And what is the hardest part is, no matter what diet I would have put somebody on prior to using the ketogenic diet like we do, I had to say to them, you're going to be perfect, you're going to hydrate and do all these things, and the chances that you're still going to have a kidney stone over the next 2 years was over 95%. When they blocked off a ureter, 95% are going to have a symptomatic episode. And if you want to sing terror in somebody's eyes, tell somebody who's just gone through a kidney stone that it's going to come back. And you're like, no. So you, again, not alone, but the kidney stones were what got you in front of a doctor, what got that first physician to recommend that kidney stones can be reversed by a ketogenic diet. I would contend that if you're not lowering the insulin level, if you're not taking that glucose down and raising ketones, really pushing that Dr Boz ratio, you're gonna have a relapse. You're gonna have a tough time. So why don't you share what happened next with our relationship, which was you had put together a spreadsheet and I kind of gobbled that up and spread it to everybody. So, but tell them how that, tell them what you
Yeah.
did.
So when in 2018, end of 2018, um, I was studying everything I could, and I was learning about not so much the Dr. Boz ratio, but the glucose ketone index (GKI),
Mm-hmm.
and I said, wow, this is pretty cool. So you can actually measure inflammation or progress in the ketogenic diet. So I made a chart, I made a graph that did the math for me. I just put in the numbers and it gave me my GKI. And then when I started watching Dr. Boz and I learned about the Boz ratio, I made a column for the Boz ratio. And then I made up my own food chart and used several different websites to look at the macros, the protein, fat, the carbs. And I made my own spreadsheet that I still use because I trust that myself. And I still every day record everything. I weigh all my food and put it in. I don't know how much longer I'm going to do this. Maybe another year, maybe the rest of my life. I don't know. I'm wired like this.
No, I love the way you're wired. Don't change a thing.
So
That methodical process, though, I think is what, again, was attractive to me, where you had plotted out, here is what you're doing. And again,
it keeps me honest.
yeah, it keeps you honest. And as I was trying to show other physicians what I was doing, as soon as you started talking, first of all, you add the word diet to any advice you give to patients. As the physician, I mean, you just read the first couple chapters of Any Way You Can and hear the cynicism where I'm like, I mean, the number of diets that I have had to review as an internal medicine physician where patients come and say, the acai berry diet is going to fix all my problems. See? So I get the cynicism. I get the disdain that happens time and time again where diets don't have the results that patients claim they do. And so to get out of that kind of wonky zone and into a place where we are able to have methodical, measurable outcomes. When I saw your chart, I'm like, okay, this is totally what I'm going to take this to the next level. And I used your chart as part of how I wrote Keto Continuum to plot out what they should be measuring and what they should be doing next. So I will again say thank you, because that sometimes when you see the idea from someone else, you're like, oh, this was that missing piece where I just need that accountability for the patient, and I need the transference to another physician to say, no, this isn't fake news. Look at the blood sugars. And that alone is unheard of in most people, because how many diabetes medications were you on when you were in the hospital?
Oh God, I was on 13. You want me to read them off to you?
Well, I mean, you
I have
can,
them.
but that was the powerful, when you said they stopped all of those medications, you'd been fasting for 5 days because you were sick, and then as they saw how low your blood sugars were, I think that response from the medical team said, if you just eat like this, you're going to have a lot better answers, and that fistful of medications you're taking will dwindle down to a hand. I shouldn't say hand.
So here's my meds: metformin, Januvia, Invokana, Diovan, Corig, fenofibrate, Plavix, Crestor, aspirin, Glucotrol, and Amaryl.
Oh yeah.
Yikes!
How did you have it? And you should keep your light on for the video. It looks better when you have that white screen on in front of you.
Oh really?
The beauty of what happens when you stop those medications is that control is put back in your hands. And I think that's the part that I am hopeful you will transfer some of this information. So you are with me over the next year, and we have a few consults, but we really just have the spreadsheet. And for anybody who does want that spreadsheet, it is a free download at bosmd.com. And there's also a link to it in the show notes, because it's a resource that you can transfer into a Google sheet, which will keep the calculations. You can open it in Excel, or you can open it in Numbers if you're on a Mac, and those calculations will stay the same. There's different tabs that Patrick V has organized, and I actually had him record a video, and it's linked inside the spreadsheet that just shows you how he thinks through it and how much just we've been blessed to share it. And every engineer that just wants to calculate their health to improvement, that's their language. That's what they like to do.
Numbers matter. Yeah.
Yeah, analytical, and just give me some data to follow, give me some answers that are very precise. And as instantly, when I talk to people who are suffering with kidney stones, knowing the next one's coming, if they do not shift that chemistry, get that glucose down, get that insulin down, those ketones should be in circulation at nearly all times. If you're trying to melt kidney stones, that I want to start talking numbers with them, but usually that just overwhelms them. Like, okay, I'll slow down. So here's the next part that I want some insight on, because that's gonna lead up to one of the announcements that I have, which is you then became one of the people I selected for being an administrator in the Neurons group. So the Neurons group came about when I did this online course. Again, I was stuck in Hawaii in COVID, and I couldn't run my clinic, so I was putting my energy into, let's see if I can teach people how to do a ketogenic diet on an online course. And honestly, you know this, I think most of the people watching know this, is that as I was writing the book, I needed a couple of years of feedback. I'd had a couple of years of feedback, but only a few hundred patients that followed it, not a couple thousand patients that had followed it. And so I was looking for people to use the process, and before I published the book, to see, is there anything I'm teaching that I could teach a little better? And so to condense the course into these short videos, and then explain how I would march people from the beginning of the ketogenic diet, from how would I prepare them to where you are, which is a very consistent, advanced level of the ketogenic diet. I had a blessing that was so many people signed up for the course that it crashed my website. And I needed help. I needed help for people who had been in my circle of influence that could help me manage all of the questions. And so I selected you and Angela and a few other people that had been on my panel of favorites, and then you became an administrator in the Neurons group, which is the Facebook group that once you've bought the course, you can get into that private group, and you can ask questions to people that have been using this process, a measurable, calculatable process of the ketogenic diet to improve their health. And I must say that the fan favorites have lots of them out there, but Patrick is one of those fan favorites that when they have an advanced question, Patrick will not only tell you the right answer, rarely have I had to correct anything that you've advised, and then you've actually had personal experience because you've really taken your health to a place that, I think it's such a gift that how much healthier you are than you were 2 years ago. So can you share, what it's like being on the inside of that? What is, maybe share a little bit more about the Neurons kind of questions they answer, and then what that part of the journey has done for you.
Yeah, so it all goes back to the question you asked me originally, what did you want to get out of this? And this is what I wanted out of it. So in that respect, I'm blessed. It really, really makes me feel good to answer a question. I must say, though, I can't answer every single one of them. So when I can't, I go to the internet and find out what it is and then answer it. So it's a learning process for me as well, to make sure that when I answer somebody, I get it right. Because it's our health, and we're responsible for it. And the Neurons group is a good place to get that guidance and get direction from people, not just me. There's lots of people in there, even some of the novices come up with great ideas that I learned from as well.
Yeah, so I like, the theory, and I think it's pretty close to reality of what has happened, is that as I was trying to be the nurse and the doctor and the administrator from this place in Hawaii, as our family was on vacation when COVID hit, and the volume of questions that were exactly the same it was suffocating me. Like the same questions came in again and again. And when they're in the first phase, this is what they ask. When they're in phase 2, this is what they ask. When they're in phase 3, this is what they ask. And again, I do believe in teaching people to fish. So creating the Neurons group was another way for me to extend how can I take somebody who is maybe the mom in their family but has adult children or friends or a husband who they're giving advice to, and they ask them these questions that they don't have the answers to. And so what I think of the Neurons place is it's a playing ground for people to practice advising others. You don't have to be an administrator to answer these questions. You say, I'm on keto continuum number 5, and somebody writes in and says, I'm 3 weeks into keto and this is my problem. What would you do? And when you try to answer it, you have so many people, including me and several of these very trained administrators, watching to see how you answered it, and if you need a gentle, like, oh, try it this way, or in addition to what you said, here's what I would advise. And I just think it hones people into being better teachers, better stewards of how to really stay on a path that would reverse kidney stones, because you can't be on the ketogenic diet for 6 weeks and think we're going to undo 15 to 20 years of creating those stones. You have got to stay the course in a state of ketosis, and that's definitely not that's not a little task. That's a big task. That's what the Neurons group is created for. So do you see that? Do you think that's...
Yeah, sure. I see that quite a bit.
Yeah.
There's some really good coaches on there, real good.
So the people keep saying my mic is too far away, and I just keep saying, I wonder if...
Can they hear me okay?
You're great, so you just keep
Okay.
doing what you're doing. I don't know. I'm going to do one more thing and then see if it connects better. I don't know. I'll keep trying.
Okay.
But, so as I look at, I'll just talk louder and see what happens. No, as I look at some of the other places where I've had people, especially during COVID, I had people say, can I come shadow you at your clinic? And of course, during COVID, I'm like, that's just not happening. But what you can do is that what they're really looking for is, how do I, as a physician, respond to some of these questions? And part of that response has been showing these examples in the Neurons group. But the other part that I have enjoyed with our relationship is that you dialed into my private Facebook, or my private support group on Friday mornings. That while in South Dakota, I ran every Friday morning, 8 to 9:15 ish. I would run a private a private Zoom call for a support group of a ketogenic diet. And anybody that was in Sioux Falls, I said, it's a free resource. Come and find out more about it. Come and ask about it. But it was also a place where I would let other leaders learn about the ketogenic process by watching me answer questions for patients, by watching me teach some lessons on kidney function or blood pressure. And you watched into that course quite a bit too. In fact, was that probably your primary support group? Was that
Absolutely, yeah. I only missed twice in 2 years.
So methodical. That's awesome.
It was perfect because I told my boss that I had to meet my doctor for an hour every Friday morning. It was perfect.
And I'm telling you, it is the best investment. You look at how much that education and that encouragement and that connection of, here's a group of people that you can't be in the group and not figure out that I'm not perfect. I have days where this doesn't go as well. I have to backpedal and restart, and I struggle with fasting as well. But that continued process of watching other people at different parts of the continuum, and then really bonding a relationship of they're trying to improve their health. We're trying to improve our health, and what that network does to connect people.
Yeah, it actually built my mirror neurons in a very good positive direction in training other people.
Yeah. So exactly.
Just
So
listening every week. That's
yeah, and that is exactly what I wanted out of the support group in the Neurons group, but also as I show people um, the 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 take that I have for the ketogenic diet and advising small groups, which I've been doing for 20 years. Part of addiction is to have weekly groups for your patients. And I do a lot of things, but one of the threads has always been that addiction requires you to be in relationship. That most people with an addiction, and I think this works so well in watching what happens with the ketogenic journey, is that when they give up carbs for the first 6 weeks, no problem. They usually do okay. I mean, a little bit of withdrawal that first week, but it's that first time that they're lonely, or the first time that they're in a ritual with their family that usually they don't have to fight over who's gonna, bring the bread pudding, because that's always covered. But now with a ketogenic journey, that bread pudding is something they had to make, and they had to deliver, and they had to pack it up, and before the night's over, they've had some. And as you watch those temptations, it's in that long game that the relationships, and why is it that I continue when I feel sad to eat or to have have something that's comforting, and instead of that, what can I do? And you cannot learn that by just reading a book. You have to watch other people who are struggling with the behavior, and that is what your brain does to learn. So you say, even just watching and listening to me in that group, but what you were really connecting, your brain was really connecting with, was, oh, I've had that emotion before. I can feel her sadness, or somebody would share, and you really could connect that they're hurting, and then you can completely understand why they ate the whole loaf of bread or whatever they did to fall off the ketogenic diet. But then to watch their grace and forgive themselves, and then transfer some of that knowledge to your own moment of vulnerability and improvement. And that's what I find has been, if I looked at the key things to your ketogenic journey, I would say that the urologist at the time you were in pain advising you to go to the ketogenic diet is a critical tipping point. That getting you off of those medications those first 2 weeks, that the spreadsheet and how much that spreadsheet has helped other people, and then your role as an advisor in that Neurons group has kept you connected, answering questions, looking into answers, and just watching their journeys, as well as showing up for that weekly support group through a Zoom by watching me advise other people. And I, of course, exploited you many times, saying, I'm going to have Patrick show off his numbers from what he's been doing, which was good for you, and it was really good for everybody in the room to see your example. And that brings me to one of the announcements that I haven't told you about yet, but I've been working on and trying to show Angela some of those ideas, show some of the other folks that are helping me in the background, is that I am going to relaunch the Consistently Keto course. I've kind of been warning people about this for the last couple of months, that after this launch, which will happen the week of October 11th, after this launch, there will be a price increase in it. So I really do want people to get in before that price increase goes up. But you might remember that one of the bonuses for the previous launches is that we would take those 4 modules, and each week we would answer the questions from each of the modules. So if you were in the preparation phase, we would have questions from the prep phase, and we in the Neurons page, we would just have this huge poll of 60 questions, and it would take a couple hours to get through all those questions. And then the next week we would say, all right, let's have some questions again for people that are in module 2, which was really that first week of the ketogenic diet. And then you'd go to module 3, which was the people who are in this kind of hard to transition zone, and can you stay the course, or if you've fallen off the wagon, did you get back to this season where your numbers are good enough to melt some kidney stones? And then finally we got to the part where people would be healthy enough and confident enough to be able to do some advanced things with the ketogenic journey, And then we had the bonus round, which really talked a lot about fasting from a state of ketosis and how much that is a different equation than fasting from a standard American diet. But inside the course, we now have I'm pretty sure 5 hours of recorded question and answers that are all bookmarked and easy to find for module 1, module 2, module 3, module 4, and the bonus question that we didn't think it was as valuable to have the question and answers as our live thing again. And instead, I was discussing with the team earlier today that if we could have something that would be valuable to people that watch the show, and I've said many times, if you buy the course, I don't care if you I don't care if you share that username and password with as many people as you want. I don't care. But if you want into the Neurons course, you have to buy the course. You can't share it to 20 people and all 20 you get into the Neurons course. But you can share the course as much as you want. So to think what is valuable for the people that have bought already, and for those that might be considering to buying this online course. And what I have decided to do is to have a small group of people in Tampa attend a small group setting where we can answer their questions. I can be their coach, kind of like what I did in Sioux Falls, but I'm going to start out with a very select small group, hopefully people that are in the first phase of the ketogenic diet, the second phase, the third phase, fourth phase, and people that are advanced fasters. And I'm hoping somewhere between 8 to 10 people I can gather and coach in a small group setting for those 5 weeks as a bonus to this online course that's coming, and we're launching in a week or so. And then after those 5 weeks, I will be starting that same process that I did in Sioux Falls, which is my commitment to my community where I live is to offer something free that they can come ask some advice on how to change their diet. Because I don't think there's enough physicians, and I don't think you need to see a physician for most of those questions. But I think the value of watching how I run a course, how I run a small group, and how that process really is, it is valuable. And I think if somebody like yourself could share that, of what you think the value of that would be, because you've experienced not being able to come to the group. Not once have you actually physically come to the group, despite a couple trips through Sioux Falls that we tried to connect, but it just didn't work out.
Going to Sturgis.
Yeah, good old Sturgis.
Yeah. So, I've done the course twice myself. I would like to do it a third time. Maybe have a group of people from the Neurons group to revisit all that again, maybe something like that. But it's every time I've done it, I've learned something I didn't know before, or something stuck, and reinforces good behavior.
Yeah, that process alone, even when I tell people just go back and watch that module again, they're like, I swear I watched it, but this time around I could hear a message that I couldn't hear before. And,
right.
And I think that as you watch people who can lead a small group, or just the power of being part of a small group and what that does to your consistency, I think is worth sharing with other people.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been a change in my life for the better. That's for sure. I was never looking to live longer. I was only looking to live better. Yeah. I was looking to be able to walk on a hike with my family. I was looking to run up the stairs. This last summer, I ran up, 2 summers ago, I ran up 63 steps and had energy left over. It's just simply amazing. Whereas before, one flight of steps and I was out of wind. My knees were burning. And now I'm on no meds. I have great energy. I think I have more energy than I had when I was a young man. In the mornings especially, when I walk somewhere at work, I walk fast because I can't help it. I just have lots of ketone. My mitochondria are firing on all 16 cylinders, and I just cruise down the hallway.
No, I think God's got plans for you, and He has infused that energy because there's a big purpose behind what you're doing.
Oh, He's had plans for me. I've just been reluctant.
Yeah, those God plans. I don't always like my assignments either. so so here is a final sign off that I do have books that we're going to give away in a minute. I'm going to check some numbers, but for all of you that know Patrick and have been the product of his advice or have been able to receive some of his advice from the Neurons page, please give him a praise in the comments or share the video with other people in his honor.
Thumbs up. Don't forget the thumbs up on this video.
And if you really want to get inside his brain, download the spreadsheet, because you get to see this tutorial from him inside that spreadsheet, and it's all free. And he will be part of my journey as we go forward. He can't get rid of me. I've said that a couple times. I'm hard to get rid of. So I want to say again, thank you for allowing me to put you on the show, and always so graciously allowing me to use your story to help other people.
Yes, it's fun.
Yeah, it does change how committed we are too.
I was a little nervous in the beginning, but you calmed my nerves pretty good.
Well, my sound issues didn't help at all. Usually I get to talk with a guest for about 40 minutes before we start, and yeah, that didn't happen. But I will say, praise God that it was Patrick that I got to interview tonight, because it's easy to see how much I like Patrick.
Yeah, I like you too. We had the same birthday too. That's
Yes,
pretty cool.
that is coming up again, and I get to enter into the 5th decade, so I'm super excited to
No.
Yeah, 50 this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I will tell you, I feel great. So isn't that what God wanted?
Yeah, that was 14 years ago for me.
Good for you. Well,
But I was
when I met you.
I was probably 60 when I turned 50, and now I'll be 50 when I turn 64.
Now that is a sales point. You could just tell people that, and it's true.
Yeah, metabolically speaking.
Amen. Well, I am going to hop over and give away some books here really quick. This is a tradition here on the show. Actually, before I do that, I have been watching several of your questions. Again, thank you for praising Patrick. I am going to check my numbers here in just a second so that you can see at the end. I didn't quite drink all of that, but yeah. So I don't know if it's going to have enough to change anything by the end of the show. But again, Patrick can't get away from me because his journey is super fun to follow. The analytics inside his spreadsheet has been something that I've shared with other physicians. I saw somebody in the comments say, my doctor doesn't know anything about this. And yeah, so ketones up to 2.1. We'll see what my glucose did. 76. Yeah, I feel a lot less stressed than I did at the beginning of the show. And I will try to fast till tomorrow night at supper time. But I want to circle back to the question saying my doctor doesn't know anything about this. And I think that is the key to what happens inside, not just the Consistently Keto online course, but inside the Neurons Facebook group, where you get to ask questions that I have physicians in that group that they just say, I just go on that and watch to see how you answer questions for other people. They have been a blessing to me just to know that it's that kind of value that they hear. And without being, intrusive into their time, I've got the same time constraints. How can you change the way you practice when the examples are so fleeting and our schedules are just so nutso? So I do appreciate those physicians and those nurse practitioners and those other coaches of ketogenic journeys that are all part of the Neurons group that help me answer questions and that help make that environment such a great place for newbies to come and learn, for advanced people who want to practice giving answers to chime in and really help. So before I sign off, I will give away those books. Let's do that quick. So again, each week I do this, and I will tell you that giving away the books each week, I remind people that you cannot type the key code into the YouTube chat. You need to go to these URLs. That's the audible.co.uk/ACX promo or audible.com/ACX.promo. One of those is for outside the United States, called a global market, and the other one is in the US. And so I give away two of those two of those books each week. So here is Any Way You Can, and we are going to give away, the first one is in the global market, and those keep, oh, actually it's in the US market, sorry. YAZKUU64MBYKN, and I think Patrick's sound is still on. I gotta find that layer and turn him off. I'm sorry. How do I do that? I'm gonna, okay, now he's muted. There you go. Okay, so all right, the other one is the global market, and oh, you know what? I bet I didn't put that in there this week. I was gonna do that right before the show. Okay, so that was not gonna work out. Let's go to the next. Is that? I don't think I did it. Yeah, sorry. So here's the keto continuum for. Let's see if I did both of those. No, yeah, this is global market for the keto continuum. That is WXPQ88Y4KN9FF. So whoever's the first person to type that in to that URL, you'll get that free audiobook. And again, recorded by me. I'd love it if you leave a review for the book. It really helps me. The best way to say thank you is to leave me a review. And then that US market is 3SJN8AQ5K3Y5N. And if you can give me a shout out if you're the person who won, I always like to see who that is, because it is something that I think is valuable and fun to give away, but it's even more fun when you see who the winner is. So that brings us to the top of the hour. I do have a wrestler to go pick up, and I will say that I enjoy these, so join me each Tuesday night for improving health with the ketogenic journey, and we do reverse those medical problems one ketone at a time here on the Dr. Boz Show. See you next week for either a good lesson of teaching about the ketogenic journey, or I have a couple of guests that I'm trying to recruit, so we'll see if they say yes.